arrived. Artist, archivist, future man, and tonight. Musician, I suppose. Trying to think of a funny Elphelt related thing to say, but that's all I managed. Anyway. Guilty Gear. Yes. So, we're playing Guilty Gear this evening. And I suppose that is more or less that. Yes, playing Guilty Gear. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything else to say. Don't have anything else to say on the matter, I suppose. We'll get into it more once we actually get to the game. But until then, let's go over the business. So yes. So, tonight, as stated, is Guilty Gear. Tomorrow, you should be seeing some Arknights. That should be around roughly 8:30 p.m. Central Time. It's not impossible that there could be some delays due to circumstances, due to various circumstances on that day. But I suppose it's never impossible that there could be delays. Anyway, I don't anticipate any particular delays, but, anything could happen. I just wanted to get out ahead of that, I suppose. So yes, with that established, I suppose we might as well get into things. So yes, so, Guilty Gear. Yes, so, probably, one thing that we've definitely seen previously is that I should probably warm up a little bit before we go straight into the online lobbies. That being said, I am already here, so anyway, we're going to be playing as Elphelt today. Yeah, I didn't have anything in particular in mind. I just sort of decided to play Elphelt, more or less. So yes, so I'm going to take a moment to remind myself what she does. So yes, whoops. Yes, I do know, the broad strokes, but I need to sort of recall my game plan, I suppose. So yeah, again, I want to set up for a lot of chain lollipops and use that for mix-ups. I can always use slash to reset it. So yeah, I can get a little bit more out of up high or down low in theory, and nailed it is more powerful, but it always ends the combo. So yeah, we'll see how we do with using the overdrives, because again, that is something that we simply don't do very often. But yeah, I don't know if Bonbonniere is... I don't know. It's always one that I sort of think about using, but I think about using it, and then I sort of think, maybe I'll use the other one. And then I end up not using either of them. But yeah, I don't know. I suppose the reason why I don't think to use it, or I think not to use it rather, is because it just sort of feels a little bit strange compared to her other super, which is more of a traditional one that I'm thinking. More of a traditional ability. Simply does some damage. This also does damage, of course, but it does damage with a delay. But I don't think that there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. Like, I don't think that it can be blocked or anything of that sort. Or at least not in the same way that any other attack could be. That's actually, that's worth looking into. I'm going to look that up real quick. Because that could be a reason to be, at the very least, careful with how I use it. Of course, I should, ideally, be careful with everything that I do. But, again, I've just never had a good understanding of this ability, and thus never had much confidence in using it. Yeah, again, I don't have any reason to believe that it's not a good super. Obviously, every super is going to have a use case for it. There wouldn't be any reason for them not to. I trust Arc System I trust Arc Sys enough to trust that they don't have supers that are in the game that are just completely useless. So yes. Yeah, they cannot remove the explosives. Can it be blocked? Yeah, combo ender hit grab, tying the opponent in grenades on a short timer to explode. The preferred overdrive for breaking the wall to get hard knockdown advantage. Despite its seemingly low damage, the grenade explosion later allows extremely high reward off safe offense, making it much harder for an opponent to retaliate. The explosion will explode automatically after a set 2.5 seconds, or instantly upon hitting any of Elphelt's attacks, firing the gun, or using an explosive. This creates devastating mix-ups using Chain Lollipop and Bomb Bomb Chocolat, while having an advantageous situation even if the opponent escapes pressure. In some cases, it can be looped into itself, comboing into another Bonbonniere to repeatedly lock down the opponent. So yes, the opponent cannot remove the explosives even by hitting Elphelt, meaning that even if they do escape, they must drop pressure or end a combo early, as they will immediately be punished. This can allow very belligerent pressure if Elphelt has health to spare, as the opponent's defensive options can result in them being put back on defense again. Even in neutral, long-range pokes like 5H and Miss Charlotte become disproportionately threatening, as Elphelt can simply run in when the grenades are about to explode to force her pressure. So yes. Yeah, it doesn't say anything specifically about the opponent being able to or being unable to block the explosion. Apparently it does do less damage. Oh, it actually does considerably less damage. But yeah, Parfeo does 126 damage. 126 damage versus Bonbonnier's 50. So that's something. Actually, oh, it might. Is that okay? Because I'm seeing a 50 and then I'm seeing an 80 on Bonbonniere. I don't know if that's okay. I don't think that's because yeah, it says one of them is just 50, and the other one is, one of them is just the input, and then one of them is just the input. The other one is the input and then explosion under the name here. It'd be nice if I had a visual aid here, but you'll have to trust me on this, I suppose. Actually, I might be able to. Yeah, I might be able to copy and paste like this. And it would seem not. I don't. Yeah, okay. So I can't copy and paste directly into the scene. That's unfortunate. Anyway, well, it is what it is. But yeah, again, if you want to look this up, I suppose you could always go to Dustloop. But yes, with that established. So it says 50 for the non-explosion version, and then 50 for the explosion version. I'm assuming that means that if it explodes, it does a total of 80 damage. Whereas if it doesn't explode, well, yeah, I'm not sure. I guess we could look into that while we're queuing. Anyway. So I am having controller issues again, so if that persists, we might need to rethink our strategy here, but let's see, got Elphelt chosen, correct? Yep, okay. And I think we should, or no, entry character, there we are, okay. Just wanted to double check. Alright, so, oh, okay, so we don't have an automatic, yeah, the entry character doesn't automatically apply to practice mode. Yeah, I guess it never has, so I don't have any reason to believe that it would do so. I just never thought about it before. But yes. So, Bonbonnier's double quarter circle forward kick. Yes. Alright, so that is not precisely what we want. Hold on. Yeah, so that's about 50 damage. And that's about an additional 30 damage, so yeah. Yeah, damage scaling works a little bit. Like, the amount of damage a character takes is partially dependent on their HP in this game. Generally speaking, the lower a character's HP currently is, the less damage they take. Yes, they also have character-specific modifiers to the damage that they take. Things like that. So yeah. Anyway, so that's why it wasn't exactly 80. But yes, anyway, we have established though that about 80 damage is the amount that the attack does. Yeah, about 80 damage is the amount the attack does. Yes, all told. Alright, this Potemkin's playing... Oops, I was going to say playing a little bit passive. Perhaps it'd be better to say that they're playing cautiously, unlike me. So yeah, if I play aggressively, I should be able to, take advantage of Potemkin's natural slowness. I do have to be careful with my jumps now, because we are in a situation where he could potentially... Yeah, where they could potentially Heavenly Potemkin Buster me, which is not ideal. Nice. Very good. Alright, alright. Yeah, I don't think we've ever seen a Heavenly Potemkin Buster on stream. I'm not going to intentionally let myself get hit by it, necessarily. I'm sure if we play enough Potemkins, it'll happen eventually. Actually, now that I think about it, I don't know if we've seen a Potemkin Buster in general. We've not played against a whole lot of Potemkins. Alright, that was a good counter, to be honest. I probably should be... Whoops. Yeah. Trying to do more of this. Yeah, I think the part of what we can do to put my opponent on edge. Oops. Yeah, part of what we can do to put the opponent on edge when we use, Alright, let's be a little bit cautious. Because if they use, one of Potemkin's supers, yeah, the one where he deploys a shock wall, I don't know the name of it. If he deploys that, I'm dead, basically. I have no idea how to respond to it. I'm led to believe that you can jump over it. But I've never successfully done so. That I can recall. I might have done so in the past. At least I don't have a clear recollection of having succeeded at it. But yeah. So again, I'd prefer not to put myself in a situation where I need to test my ability to jump over it. Especially because that's going to potentially put me in a dangerous situation where we could be Heavenly Potemkin Bustered. Yes, Heavenly Potemkin Buster is a grab that only works on you if you are jumping, and it's very strong. Yeah, Potemkin can do a lot of damage in very few attacks, and that's definitely the sort of the peak Potemkin potential. Alright. Now I'm getting a little bit cautious. They've kind of figured me out. Or not cautious. I'm being a little bit careless, rather. Alright. So yeah, again, as I was getting at, I always forget that slide head, that move that he does where he falls. I always forget that does damage for some reason. Okay, so this is... Oh, okay. Alright. Oh, unfortunate. But yeah. So I gotta say, I did survive that shock wall. Indeed, I countered the shock wall, kind of. Not intentionally, of course, but it did happen. But yeah, anyway, as I was saying, so we can sort of bait the opponent into thinking that we're going to keep doing the standard version of this, and then go for the finisher, the low finisher. Yeah, I feel like if we had, nice. If we had done the proper finisher of Chain Lollipop there, we probably would have beaten Potemkin right away. But we did win, so I can't complain. Yeah, one thing that I do want or one thing that I have been thinking of, possibly the reason why I started thinking about Elphelt. Alright, this is bad. Alright, I think we've lost this a little bit, but I was going to say, I'm nothing if not persistent. But yes, Potemkin has unfortunately made me into nothing here.
Understood. Proceed with the next mission.
Alright. Anyway. Let's continue on from there. I think they might be a little bit upset after that devastating Chain Lollipop there. That's a move that people tend to get upset about. Yeah, I was actually playing Guilty Gear with a friend of mine the other day. Yeah, we might have mentioned that. I don't remember how long ago it was. I feel like I had mentioned it before. Maybe I meant to mention it. Anyway, so I was playing Elphelt with them, and they were struggling a little bit. And despite being a fairly avid Elphelt player, despite being an avid Elphelt player, I didn't really have any advice to give on sort of how to deal with Elphelt and her various tricks. Ooh, okay. I didn't know that move had armor, but I suppose I probably should have perfected it. So yeah, so again, slide head there is a move that I tend to struggle with. Yeah, either I get too passive about it or I get too aggressive about it. Alright. Alright, so yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about with the shock wall. I tried to jump over it, but that time it was pretty clear that I was just too far away. I suppose I can do a high jump. That's something I basically never consider, but it is an option. Alright. Yeah, I need to be very ready to respond if Potemkin jumps. Because Mega Fist is no joke. Alright, not bad. Managed to get them to burst. Unfortunate. Again, I shouldn't be jumping recklessly against Potemkin. I should really only jump at all if I'm confident that I'm going to accomplish something by it. Yeah, like, more so than on basically any other character. Because Heavenly Potemkin Buster is just absolutely devastating. I don't know how tough Elphelt specifically is, necessarily. I'm assuming the answer is probably not tremendously. Yeah, I'm assuming that the answer is not tremendous. Ooh, nice. Very good, very good. Yeah, I do want to make sure that I'm putting the pressure on this Potemkin. Pressure is definitely a good thing in general, but especially against this Potemkin because, yeah, they're pretty good about using slide head and whatnot. They're good at using things that I have a hard time dealing with. Alright, that was an example of Heavenly Potemkin Buster. They used it there to get out of the corner. Alright, that was foolish of me. Oh, shock wall. Nope. Ah. Yeah, I lost that one. So yeah, I was trying to get a high jump, which is where you press down and then quickly press up. It allows you to jump higher, as per the name. So yeah, I was trying to get a high jump there, and I did not pull it off properly. So yeah, the shock wall's This isn't just an Elphelt thing for me either. The shock wall is just immediately shuts me down, no matter who I'm playing or what the circumstances are. All right. Okay, so this is a normal jump. Her knees go just about above Kai's head. Okay, so that, yeah. Can I air dash out of a... Not 100%. Ooh, Venom, nice. Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not 100% sure if I can air dash out of a high jump, but I guess I don't have any reason to believe that I couldn't. Honestly, I might have been high jumping before. Or I might have high jumped there when I was deliberately going for it and simply not realized it. I thought that there was more of a visual effect to indicate the high jump, but it seems that I'm incorrect about that. I do love Venom's intro.
You came because my flyer, didn't you?
Elphelt, always on the grind.
You may escape the moonlight, but not the phantom.
Hey! Be extra careful with her!
You do have to be extra careful with Elphelt.
Versus Elphelt. Duel 1.
Alright, so let's lead pretty aggressively. Oh. Or maybe not. Unfortunate, this. I feel bad about fighting them, so I'm not going to fight them if I can avoid it. Alright, anyway. Let's see, I don't think I have... Oh. I don't think I have taunt bound. I guess maybe it feels a little bit rude to taunt. I don't know. Well, anyway, while we're here, I suppose this has become a just chatting stream. So yeah, Venom's been pretty interesting from what I've seen. But yeah, I'm definitely interested to see sort of how the billiard balls, how that works. Obviously, I've seen it happen. I've used them. But I'd like to see what kind of tricks you can pull off with them in an actual match. And unfortunately, this doesn't seem like the match where we're going to learn that. I do hope that this Venom returns, but I don't know that that's likely to happen. I wonder if they... This isn't an internet issue, I don't think. That seems unlikely, because they're here. If they had disconnected, they would not be here. I wonder if they... No, they did. They did initiate the match. They did initiate the match, so they were evidently here long enough to, you know, start the game. Actually, I think there is a mode, or there is an option you can choose that makes it so if you're in training... Well, I think that lets you... Yeah, I was going to say, I think that there's an option that lets you automatically start a match if you are queuing in training mode, as we have been doing. But I think that just automatically takes you to the screen where you choose whether or not to match with your opponent, not that it automatically makes the match start, per se. Yeah, so all of this is to say that it seems like this Venom maybe just sort of left for some reason, which, you know, happens. Everyone has to do things sometimes. And I suppose it could be... This is a little bit of a waste of time. We could get this done faster by just, you know, fighting. But again, I don't know, that doesn't feel right to me. I don't like the feeling of it. We've already taken a life off of them, so I suppose we are going to win by default, technically anyway. Yeah, I don't know. again, we are, I think, going to win by default anyway, so we might as well win for, like, real. As much as it pains me to, let's see, there we go. As much as it pains me to do this, this will, in theory, get the match over with faster, so we can get on to other things and quit wasting time. Maybe using overdrives wasn't the most efficient use of my time. But anyway. I didn't like that, but oh well. You gotta do what you gotta do, I suppose. If the opponent isn't there, then they're not there. Anyway. Was I saying something? I'm sure I was at some point, but anyway. So yeah, so I guess I was talking about Elphelt and how I am not really equipped to understand how to counter her effectively. But yeah, I think, the advice I gave was basically, if you're in a chain lollipop situation, what you want to do is forward punch, which I do stand by that, but it may not be necessarily the choice to make in every situation. In particular, Potemkin is, as we have seen, quite large and quite heavy. So it's possible that Potemkin maybe has somewhat of a less favorable jab, and thus is less able to get out. Uncertain, though. Doesn't look like... I should pay attention to the match rather than look at Potemkin's frame data right now. Alright, whoop. Alright, whoop. Alright, let's get a little bit aggressive here. We're getting cornered too much. Yeah, this Giovanna is pretty good at putting out pressure, I have to admit. Alright, whoop. Unfortunately we didn't convert off of that. That would have been very good if we had. Alright, very good. Solid game sense, good performance, good burst, too. Oop, okay. Yeah, even not in the corner, we are still struggling a little bit here. But it looks like they don't have... Their defense is a little bit weak, so if we can get them into a... Nope, I was going to say. If we can get them into a situation where they have to be on their guard, that would probably be ideal. I suppose that's ideal for basically everyone, but... As long as they're not attacking me, that's good for me, but... Yeah, I probably should be leading with my slashes a little bit less. We've learned that lesson many times before. Oop, oop, oop. Alright, we got burst ready now. We've got a safety tool. Yeah, we're definitely playing some footsies here. Alright. Nice, nice, nice. Alright, now they're getting cautious. Oop. That was probably not the best time to burst, but... Oop, 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 oop. Oh, nope. Yeah, it didn't quite respond to that appropriately. For some reason I keep trying to do quarter circle forward and kick. I don't know what I'm trying to accomplish there. Alright, not bad. Keep the pressure up. Whoop, okay, this isn't gonna work, I don't think, but... No, okay. Didn't work, but not too bad, honestly. We did still win, so... can't complain too much. Yeah, I think that was a pretty instructive match. I definitely feel like I feel like a lot of the time when we're fighting people who are good on offense. Very early burst out of the Giovanna. Maybe I shouldn't have immediately early bursted myself, but yeah, normally when we're playing against someone who's got good defense, I feel like I really struggle a lot. Or not good defense, sorry, good offense. The same is true of defense, I suppose, as well, but yes. In particular, good offense is something that I struggle with a lot. Alright. So yes, well, case in point. But I feel like the Giovanna here, I'm just on the right wavelength with them, that I'm able to not completely crumble, but also not have an easy time. Alright. I want to use more projectiles, because I think they tend to get a little bit lost in the proverbial sauce. And don't block the shots quite so well. Oop, that's unfortunate. I think we're going to wall break here. Indeed. I have first, and we're not in a terrible situation. Honestly, I feel like that was a bad time to burst. Nice. So yes, as predicted, they didn't do so well against our projectiles. They've got burst, which we don't, which is kind of bad, but yeah, I don't want to wait here in the corner, though, because that's a bad place to be. Alright, not bad. I always expect... Maybe I just play too much Super Smash Brothers, or have played too much Super Smash Brothers. But I expect a lot more sort of disjoint out of characters who have, weapons and whatnot. I always think, well, obviously... Alright, well, obviously, if I get kicked in the gun, that's not going to hurt me. But yeah, I don't know that there's any characters that have a tremendous amount of disjoint, or at least disjoint on a lot of their attacks. But yes, for those who aren't as familiar, disjoint is a term in fighting games for when your ability to, you have hurt boxes and hit boxes. I can never remember, now that I think about it, I can never remember which one is which, but I think that hurt boxes are the ones where that determine whether or not you get hurt by an attack. Where you can, or no, hold on. Okay. Right. Okay. Hurt boxes are the part that hurts, and the hit boxes are the part that gets hit. So, your hit box is essentially your body, and your hurt boxes are your attacks, I think. I'm not 100% sure, though. Not bad. One of these days I'm going to have to learn that terminology for sure, but as long as I'm consistent about it, I suppose it doesn't matter for the purposes of this discussion. Anyway. Not bad. But yes, anyway. So, a disjoint is basically when you have a hurt box that extends substantially farther than your hitbox. Alright. So yeah, when you have, for instance, like with this attack here, the area that my gun occupies is a place where I can be hit and take damage and all that. But if it were not, then it would be disjointed. Alright, baited the burst there. Retaliate in kind. We definitely have the advantage, so no need to get careless. Ooh. Oops. Uh-oh. Yeah, I had meant to... unfortunate. Yeah, I had meant to use a projectile there and not what I did. Oops. Alright, there I quarter circle forward kick because I was trying to quarter circle backwards kick, and I just inputted the wrong direction. Alright. Alright. Honestly, yeah, I think this is definitely one of the closest matches I've had. Probably in the time we played this. Alright, good thing that I hadn't started anything there. Alright. Alright, not bad, not bad. Ah, unfortunate. Very close, very close. Yeah, I got a little bit too passive there towards the end, I think.
True, but a jaguar cut might be stronger.
Alright, not bad, not bad. Sit. I do hope we can face that Giovanna again down the line somewhere. But yeah, I think, in general, I've been performing pretty okay today. I feel like I've been a little bit more deliberate with my actions, a little bit smoother as well. But yeah, there have definitely been times where I've overthought things a little bit, which is another problem that needs to be addressed, but... Oh, okay, no opponent, apparently. But yeah. Yeah, so in general, I think I've been doing pretty good. I think that last match was particularly good. Again, I feel like a lot of the time, in these like lower ranks, you know, you'll have some people who are destined to go up, and some people who are about where they're going to stay. Well, I don't know. Essentially what I'm trying to say here is that I feel like in a lot of cases and a lot of places, you know, you're not always going to be facing opponents who are exactly the same skill level as you, or, you know, very close to your skill level in early levels of competitive, basically. Because again, you've got some people who just sort of dabble in it, play a little bit here and there, such as myself mostly, but yeah, people who just sort of dabble, and you have some people who do play very seriously and perhaps are going to try to be very serious competitors. Slayer's going to be interesting to fight against. I might need to be a little bit more serious than usual while we fight Slayer. But yeah, anyway, so you've got some players who are going to be playing very seriously and who are going to be improving quite a bit and are, you know, already sort of in the process of improving, and moreover are, you know, better than you, basically, like substantially better than you. Whereas I think in higher ranks, you'll have more situations where you're playing against people who are roughly on the same level as you. Alright, a dance indeed. Slayer can do things. We've seen Slayer before. And I'm definitely not inclined to underestimate Slayer. But it's also important that I not psych myself out. Because yes, Slayer the vampire may be immortal, but this player is a person just like any other. So yes, so I can still learn their patterns, and I can still exploit them, and I can still use the classic. But yeah, Chain Lollipop is definitely not easy to deal with. That much is true. And I don't think it's easy to deal with for anyone. Nice. Yeah, I don't think that it's easy to deal with for anyone. But yeah, I do still want to try and figure out a little bit more how to better understand Elphelt and play against her. I suppose in order to play against Elphelt better. I'd probably need to, you know, play against an Elphelt rather than strictly just playing with her. But yeah, a brief glance at Potemkin does seem to suggest that his jabs aren't substantially slower than anyone else's. So they should still be applicable for getting out of Chain Lollipop. And to be fair, probably a lot of the issue is just the fact that the timing is pretty tight, admittedly. I struggle with it quite a bit as well. The only reason that I can do it somewhat consistently is because I practice it quite a bit. Alright. Slayer's got a pretty solid guard, so let's try to break that a little bit. Nice. But yes, once again, like I said, the player is mortal just like anyone else, and so we can learn to exploit their vulnerabilities.
My mic is always hot.
Alright, alright.
Knew that they cannot change society. So instead
Not
of
bad.
reflecting on themselves, they blame the beasts, heaven or hell.
I feel like we didn't have a whole lot of chance to learn about Slayer specifically from that match. It was definitely a good exercise in turn taking, so to speak.
My.
You know, when I had the advantage, I pressed it. When the Slayer had the advantage, I defended well. You know, I didn't constantly get countered, as is often the case for me. But yeah, I think if we stagger our offense a little bit, that should probably throw them off somewhat. Because yeah, they've come to expect a certain degree of pressure from me, I think. So if we slow it down a little bit, if we slow it down just a little bit here and there, we should be able to throw them off. Not bad, not bad. Alright. I think they may have decided that they don't want to play with me anymore. Alright, let's just do it. Let's not fool around.
I'll put you on the guest list.
Well,
Duel 2.
an unfortunate circumstance, but it is what it is. Alright. But yeah, there's a part of me that wants to, if they do this, just disconnect. Because, you know, it feels kind of pointless to fight them. But I think if I were to disconnect, it would count as a win for them. And I don't want to encourage this kind of behavior. So,
My mic is always hot.
I think we probably have time for one more match. Well, I didn't mean to rematch against this particular opponent. Even if they haven't immediately dropped out, they might have actually legitimately been AFK and not just gave up. Even so, I guess, you know, if they're AFK, they're AFK. Yeah, even if they are AFK, you know, there's not a whole lot I can do about that either. So, no reason not to simply close out the fight. But yeah, again, there's a part of me that wants to be merciful in a sense, but I wonder if this is the same Giovanna. I don't think so. I haven't been paying attention to the names, so I don't know for sure, but I don't think this is the same. Who knows, though?
Duel 1.
Alright, they've got a different skin on, so yeah, it's probably a different Giovanna. Alright, so I'm getting a little bit too passive. Alright. Alright, not bad, not bad. Could have been better on the air-to-air there, but... Alright, alright. Alright, we do have an ad coming up here shortly. But there's not a whole lot I can do about that right now. Unfortunate. Alright, good. Oh, uh-oh, I've got an alarm going off on my phone. I don't know what that's about. Okay. So yes, I do know what that's about now. I set an alarm for the wrong time. Alright, anyway. So yes. So, not bad, not bad. They definitely turned it around there a little bit. So yeah. So now I just need to keep the pressure up, but not get too greedy. Alright. Alright, nice burst. Yeah, they're good at not leaving too many openings. So yeah, now that they've got a little bit of a taste of blood. Oh, okay. I need to keep an eye out for that jump. That catches me a lot. So, let's not let it do that. Alright. Oh, ah. Yeah, case in point. Was I must have been crouching there or something. Alright, we don't have a whole lot of snoozes left. Well, we can probably... Yeah, it's still 3 minutes out, so we can probably wrap this up before the allotted time. Yeah, I guess honestly, it'd be quite impressive to draw this match out that long. I do like how nonchalant Giovanna sounds. You're just like, uh-oh, careful, ooh, scary. But yeah, not at all concerned about the fact that she's actively in a fight. Alright. Alright, not bad, not bad. Definitely I'm throwing out a lot more projectiles in a lot of... I'm throwing a lot of projectiles out in a lot of unsafe situations. Oh, I'm not quite sure what happened there, but I won, so not bad. But yeah, I was just thinking about how if I was a little bit better about my overdrive inputs, we probably could have closed that out a lot sooner and a lot cleaner. Yeah, the problem is, you know, obviously you don't want to be over-reliant on them because they're not going to win you the game, basically. You win by getting yourself into a situation where whatever the move you use is the move that wins, basically. Alright, not bad, not bad. Alright, I feel like... We're getting pretty evenly matched here. We're countering each other, like, countering each other specifically, rather than one of us being countered. Alright, definitely I wasn't blocking there when I should have been. That's unfortunate. Let's see. Well, it looks like we might have the match go into the ad break, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is, I suppose. It'll still be there in the VOD. So, if you do really want to see every second of every thrilling match, be sure to check out my VOD channel on YouTube. Alright, yeah, I was trying to... You know, one thing we should be doing more is we should be doing that grenade ability a little bit more often. Yeah, that one there. Yeah, that's a good way to cross over, I think. Can you not? What a thing to say to someone who is actively shooting you. And in such a tone, too. Oh, alright. Ooh, this is bad. I feel like we're... Nice, okay. Watch that one out. Not bad, not bad. So let's not let it get that close again, if we can avoid it. Yeah, I should be using more punches and kicks. I really do over-rely on my slashes, I think. Alright. Alright. Doing not so hot. We're getting... Okay, yeah, we're definitely in a bad situation. Okay. We do still have the life advantage, so I can't be too afraid. In fact, yeah, I hadn't realized that, so that's why I was playing so passively there. But even if it wasn't true, I was still playing too passively. Ooh, not bad, not bad. Misjudged the length of my kick there. That was on me. Alright. Alright, keep up the pressure. Alright. Not bad, not bad. Alright. Well, unfortunate that happened during the ad break, but honestly, I don't think I could have had a cooler end to a fight. So yeah, we did lose that round, or that match, technically, but I do feel good for what we've accomplished here. I feel like today is a day where I've learned a lot about my weaknesses as a player. And really, isn't that what we're looking for? Anyway, in the meantime, we'll go on break. Alright, we have returned. So yeah, I might want to look into adjusting the ads settings a little bit. Because the thing about it is, when we're doing a 1 hour stream, which is, 2 out of 5 streams, the scheduled ad break, intersects with the end of the stream, which is a little bit of an issue. Because either I have to snooze it a whole lot, and you only have so many snoozes you can use. Yeah, I either have to snooze it, or I have to wait for it to, I just have to have it go at a time that is usually inopportune. Because again, we usually don't go much more than an hour on these streams. So yeah, the 1 hour between scheduled ad breaks makes it so it's a little bit inconvenient for me when I want to wrap up the stream. So yeah, I think, my thought was I wanted to have the fewest number of ad breaks, and thus, was okay with having longer ad breaks. But, yeah, again, I could change it just for these streams, or I could change it overall, I suppose. I don't know. One way or the other, though, the current setup for it is not ideal, I don't think. Yeah, it's just very inconvenient for me as I get close to the end of streams. So, it is what it is. But yeah, I could always aim to stream a little bit longer. I think that's definitely achievable for these days. So yeah. Anyway. So yes. Anyway, where were we? Right. So, the stream is now drawn to its conclusion. So, if anyone has any raid suggestions, I would be delighted to hear them. If not, I can always find a target on my own. And so, with that, yeah, okay. What do I have to say? Oh, right, so, tomorrow. So yes, tomorrow we have an Arc Night stream scheduled. Yeah, that should be roughly 8:30 p.m. Central Time, but it could vary depending on circumstances. It's unlikely that it will, but it's not impossible. Yes, again, I say this not just because the nature of the world as a chaotic and ever-changing thing, but because I do have specifically a fairly large number of things scheduled for tomorrow. So, it could go either way. Again, I don't anticipate a change, but we shall see. Then, so yes, for next week we should be back to the usual schedule. So that would be Arc Nights on Tuesday Arc Nights on Wednesday and Saturday. Yeah, Atelier Yumiya on Tuesday and Thursday. We'll have a Mika and the Witch's Mountain stream on Friday. And that should be that. Yeah, every stream except for the Thursday and Friday stream you can expect around 8:30 p.m. Central Time. And then for the Thursday and Friday streams, I'm going to aim for about 9 p.m. Central Time. Yes. So, with that then, I think we're going to raid into Svella this evening. Svella, who is playing a game called Haste, which I've not heard of before. Not sure what that is. Yes. I realize now that I have made a crucial mistake. I have made a crucial mistake in talking about the schedule before I get set up for the raid, because now I have to wait for the pre-roll. But it is what it is. Oops. Raid, Svella Procera. The pre-roll is now over, so that shouldn't be a huge issue. Svella Procera. But yes, the customary raid message is, as always, we have arrived. And so, thank you all for being here tonight. I hope that you have had a fine night. I hope that you will continue to have a fine night every night. And I hope that you will be well until the next time I see you. Thank you all very much, and farewell. Let us get this raid underway.